Hey everyone, on June 19th, Seacoast Stories Live is back. And this time, we're headed to the Word Barn in Exeter. If you've never been before, it is a gorgeous venue that gives big Prescott Park vibes. On June 19th, we'll celebrate 1 year of the podcast, Juneteenth, and the kickoff of summer. To do so, I'll have conversations with 3 badass guests. First up, Jay Collins of Flight House Gym in Rye, Alyssa Pine of the Live Freely Market in Hampton, and Portsmouth Assistant Mayor Joe Kelly. Plus, WOKQ's Kira Liu will co-host Seacoast Trivia, where we'll hand out special prizes to audience members who participate. It will be a special summer night, and I want to see you and your friends there. June 19th, 7 p.m. at the Word Barn. Secure your tickets now by visiting the link in today's show notes. Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people, businesses, and newsmakers that make the Seacoast an American hidden gem. I'm Trey Farkas, and on today's episode, my conversation with Laura Fox, the secret weapon behind some of your favorite Seacoast businesses. By day, Laura runs Maine Fox Marketing, where she builds websites and creates marketing strategies for the likes of Vernon Family Farm, the functional nutritionist Aaron Holt, the Press Room, the Word Barn, Soul Models, Seacoast Lately, and more. Her main goal is to drive more traffic to her clients' websites so they can ultimately get more business. And she does so with stunning results, taking Aaron Holt's website, for example, from 11 impressions a day to 1,500 per day. But as Laura will tell you, that work is not what she loves most. By night, she's the lead singer of Foxglove, a 5-piece band which performs at various Seacoast venues. Music is what lights her up, and you'll hear some unbelievable stories about her musical career later in the show. You'll also hear about how she reinvented herself at age 29, what happiness really is, why she thinks often about death, and the bone-chilling advice she would give to anyone weighing a major change. Today's episode is presented by Meconi Financial and Holistic and Hormonal. And this story begins by going back to Laura's teenage years when she first discovered her passion for performing.
I was 15 and I was out at the summer camp called Camp Hawthorne, which very sadly doesn't exist anymore, but it was a beautiful camp in Raymond, Maine. And at this point, I had already been there, I think, for maybe 2 weeks. And I had these camp counselors who I was really close to. And so I found out that this was happening. And I wandered into my bunk. And Emily, my counselor, was there. And she was also a singer. And I had always sang when I was a little kid, but I'd never performed before. And I was very afraid of it. Stage fright was like very big. So I ended up telling her, I was like, I'm kind of interested, but so shy. It's so strange now looking back because I was a pretty timid person, and I wouldn't say that about myself now at all.
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
It's pretty hard to imagine now. But I was, and Emily, thankfully, because this changed my entire life, just pushed me. She was like, she saw in me this innate desire, and she was like, okay, you're going to do it. Black and white, here it is, we're doing it. Look through this songbook, pick a song you know. I picked In My Life by the Beatles. My mom's been playing the Beatles for me since I was a baby, and they're my favorite band. And then she's like, okay, we just need to find Asa. He's a camp counselor. I'd never met him before. She's like, go to this bunk and he'll play guitar for you. This show is starting in an hour, mind you. So I go find this bunk, knock on the door. There's a guy sitting there with a guitar, not Asa, different guy, Alex, who luckily was super kind. And he was like, oh, I'll do it. So he learns the song. We play it one time through. I don't even think we finished it, actually. And then we get a knock on the door hey, everybody's going up to the barn or whatever. Yeah, it was wild. So I went up to this barn and, we weren't first. So I'm kind of waiting in line, sitting on my hands, fucking terrified. And then I get up to the stage and there was this really rickety white bench. I remember it so vividly. It's so weird, the things that stay with you. And I just remember this feeling the room got quiet to listen and I started singing and it stayed quiet. And I got this experience like in my whole body of electricity. It was like, it's like nothing else. I still get it when I perform. I played at the press room last night. I still get it. It's like, it's magic. And that was the first time that I like really experienced it and got to understand that, which was so beautiful. And then that night, my camp mates my bunk mates were like, they asked me to sing them to sleep, which was very, very cute. And then the next morning at breakfast, the bunk next to us came up to me and they were like, oh, we heard you singing. You sang us to sleep too. And then, yeah, it just changed everything for me.
Wow. So once you got home from this camp and settled back into normal life, what were you going to do with that experience? Did you have any plans or realizations where you were like, oh, I have this thing I have to go pursue or learn more about or study?
Yeah. I started to take voice lessons, guitar lessons. Didn't stick with that either. And then for those few years, I didn't really do that much music.
Okay. So when people were asking you college, career, what do I want the rest of my life to look like? Music was not a part of those plans?
Music was a part of my internal plan. So when I went to college, I went to Hampshire College in Amherst, Mass. And they are really unique in their philosophy. You essentially create your own curriculum, your own major. And so I started off there thinking I was going to study music. But the way that first year works is you have to take a class from a couple of the different schools of thought. So I did that and I did take a music class. But my second year, I took a class with a professor who was not great and sort of reshaped my interest in music, went on the back burner a little bit. And then it wasn't really until the next year that I got more into it. But I was studying the attainment of happiness through multiple lenses, philosophy, psychology. And then I eventually like kind of brought in music as like the way that I am pursuing happiness.
Why were you so interested in studying the attainment of happiness?
How could you not be interested in that? I feel like that's the ultimate goal for so many people. Like, what brings happiness? What allows you to feel joy? It's actually an interesting segue, maybe. I facilitate for soul models. And one of the things that I like to do with the girls is have them write a joy list. I feel like Carrie might have mentioned this on the podcast, actually. So it essentially, the goal of that for me is to help them see the joy in their life that already exists and how do they make it grow. So I essentially ask them to like write these different lists of things that they like, how they want to spend their day, or, you know, what's a normal school day look like? What's a normal weekend day look like? And then I try to have them project themselves into 20 years later. Imagine you're my age. What does a work day look like? What does a school day look like? And then before I've asked them to do all of that, I ask them to write a joy list, which is 20 things that bring them joy. It could be tiny, like laughing with my friend. Not that that's tiny, that's huge, I think. Or, you know, seeing a butterfly. Doesn't matter at all. Totally up to them. They don't have to share it if they don't want to. But essentially it allows them, hopefully, to have this list to go back to and reference. And once they've gone through this other part of the exercise and they see, what does this day look like now? What does this day look like in 20 years? Did they have any of those joy items on any of those descriptions of those days? And often, no. I think especially if this was done for adults, it would be much less so, actually. So the point, I think, is I want them to be able to default to that, to see the joy in their lives, notice it, pay attention to it, and help it grow. And I think we would probably be in a much like happier society if that was most people's default.
As you were going through these courses on the attainment of happiness, what did college age Laura think happiness was?
Oh man, college feels like 1,000 years ago. I think I had no clue. I think I was drawn to hedonism. So the pursuit of pleasure in the absence of pain. That made a lot of sense to me then. And I think that happens to be where a lot of people live now, especially in capitalist society. Overconsume, overbuy. It's a lot of outward world. And I think now I'm much more interested in the inner world and the understanding of like where it is that we come from and what part do we play in our society, in our culture, in our community. How do you just be present in the moment and not let all of the buzz and all of the stress of normal everyday life kind of take over? I think that's really finding happiness. And I think at the end of the day, like life is about joy and connection to other people. And you can break everything down to that.
Are you happy right now?
Yeah, today I feel happy.
But not
tired,
every day.
But no, not every day.
No.
It's not, no, sure. No, I don't think, no, I think it's human to feel like sometimes the good is more at the forefront and sometimes the hard or fearful is more at the forefront. And there are times when that's certainly the case for me. And I have strategies that I have learned to help me move out of the negative thought patterns or challenging moments of life. And those are often yoga for sure. That was like one of the most important things I've done. I started practicing at Yoga East in Kittery when I was 17 and then bounced around obviously from like living in different places, but I've returned there and I've been practicing there now again, I think 6 years or so. I think moving the body is really important. My best friend, Sarah Treader, would say.
She's your best friend?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Everybody knows Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of beautiful, strong best friends, and she is absolutely one of them. And she's helped me to understand how important it is to move the body. And she is the first person like out the door to the gym. And I also started doing that. I go to Gain Fitness in Portsmouth and I strength train 3 days a week. And just like the reality of like, you have to move the energy out of you. You just will end up staying stagnant. So like movement, I think, is a huge help. And then I also am like, I'm very into reading about different spirituality techniques and things. Like Eckhart Tolle is amazing. He's probably my number one. Just like how do you stay present? But one of the big things for me also is singing. Like the actual physical experience in the body changes when you sing. I mean, there's studies on like the difference of how pain management is tolerated in childbirth. If you sing during childbirth, it's wild. There's a real beautiful connection. And when I was a kid, I used to sing myself to sleep. When my mom was around, she would sing me to sleep. And then when I got older, I would sing myself to sleep. And then when I was feeling anxious as a child, I used to have these experiences where I felt like the universe was sort of like caving in on me. Like there was like a vastness to an understanding. Still happens sometimes actually when I'm like thinking about death or space, time. I think about that stuff a lot.
As one does.
Yeah. And this feeling doesn't always happen, but once in a while it does. And it's the experience of singing actually helps to shift me out of it. And I don't really understand the science behind it. I wish I could tell you, but it's true for me.
When you're thinking about death, what are you thinking about?
I'm thinking about the inevitability of losing everyone I love, which is the thing I'm the most afraid of, right? And it also is the thing I can be sure will happen, which is powerful and terrifying, and also an opportunity. If I allow it to be an opportunity to drive me toward more connection, then when I am at death's door, I don't think I will be so afraid. You know, like I certainly don't feel ready to die, but most people don't feel ready to die when they die, sadly. And, you know, I've been reading or listening to this podcast called The Telepathy Tapes. It's one of the most incredible things. I'm I really want everybody to listen to it. I've told everyone I know.
After this podcast.
After this one, yep. And it's just like so amazing, like in terms of metaphysical understanding of, it's essentially a full paradigm shift of how we understand energy and connection, communication. I mean, these like autistic children are literally able to communicate with their caregivers through their mind. I mean, it sounds fully crazy. And yet, I mean, these are like Harvard doctors explaining. I mean, it's not just like some woo-woo shit, which I love woo-woo shit, but
Same.
It's truly, it's incredible. And I guess for me, like consuming that kind of information, like that's one example of a myriad of information that I like to read about or listen to, learn about. And it helps me to feel more prepared for not just my death, but others. And actually, I have a client who's wonderful, Laura Clemenson. She has an organization called Pre-Dead Social Club. But one of the beautiful things about her organization that she's started is it's so much about creating community. Like that's really the point, allowing people to find a space, a safe space to share and to understand and to talk about death. Everyone is going to die. And we just walk around like we don't know it. You know, it's so strange. And then it's funny because I think I end up realizing my people when I can like talk about this kind of stuff and they're not like, get the fuck away from me, Laura. But no, like my friends, if they listen to this, will be like, yeah, that's pretty much all the conversations that I like to have is I'm not really surface. There's no interest there for me. First dates are hard.
Wow. All right. There's so many things I want to talk to you about because I also love talking about death. I am a big studier of Stoicism and Roman philosophy, and they think a lot about death as well in the similar sense that you do about just kind of in the like live every day like it's your last because tomorrow could be your last. And with regards to connection, and this is something that I learned, and every time I see my parents, for example, it's kind of sad, but every time I leave home, I hug my mom like 5 seconds longer than is normal because I leave every interaction with her thinking, this could be the last time I ever see you. So I'm just going to hold on a little bit tighter. She's not on death's door or anything, like nothing is wrong with her. But, you know, older age, things happen. She's a type 2 diabetic. So maybe something will just happen. So whether that's with her or with other people in my life who I don't see that often, I always hang on a little bit tighter knowing that something could happen tomorrow to you, to me. I lost my best friend in a car crash when I was a junior in high school. And so that has always stayed with me. I never got to tell that person one more time that I love her. So I say all this to say that, not to be a downer, but anything can happen to your friends and family at any time or to you. So hug them tighter, say I love you. Even if it's guy to guy, it's a little bit weird. It's much easier for me to say it to my girlfriends.
Guys love each other too.
Yeah. They just don't show it as well, including myself.
No, but the way that they will begin is by seeing others do it more.
Yeah. That's a good point, Laura Fox. So that's to say, I also like talking about death.
Solid.
How did you get into all of this?
Talking about death?
This metaphysical thinking.
My mom is like, she's always been very interested in spirituality. Both my parents met at Maharishi International Institute.
What is that?
Maharishi is the guru the Beatles studied with. So they met in Iowa at that college or university.
It's in Iowa?
I know, strange.
What?
Yeah.
You've just become my favorite person.
Yeah. But yeah, my mom, she was always talking about God and the universe. And she used the word God. I'm comfortable with the word God, but not always. Sometimes I don't want to say that. And it's not really about a word. It's more about like a presence and understanding that there's something beyond what we can touch and feel, and maybe not feel. I think we can, it is actually all feeling, right? But yeah, she just like always would talk about it when I was like feeling fearful about death or space and time, or I don't know how I framed it actually when I was little, but I remember the feeling of darkness, like kind of closing in. And she would just like talk about white light surrounding me. And yeah, it really stuck with me.
Wow. All right. So you're in this weirdo college, which didn't function like a standard college as we know it, right? Tell me more about this school.
Yeah. So there's divisions. So you have Div 1, Div 2, Div 3. Your Div 1 is your first year there, and you essentially are doing some of the prerequisites of that. Your Div 2 covers your second and third year, and you kind of focus in a little bit more. So for me, I was like, okay, what are the subjects I want to study? How do I kind of combine them together in a way that makes sense? For me, it was the attainment of happiness. So philosophy, psychology were kind of the main parts. And then music came in because that's my way of seeking happiness. And I studied some French on the side just because I wanted to. And then your fourth year is your Div 3. And you can think about it like a master's thesis. Some people write a huge long paper. And for me, I had been doing a lot of creative writing at that point. And so I ended up doing a prose poetry memoir and a performance. Like I wrote, I think 15 songs in the course of that year and then had a final performance. And that fall of my senior year, I went abroad to Boston. Interesting choice. And I studied with Livingston Taylor, James Taylor's brother, which was really the catalyst that shot me more toward where I am now, which is like regularly performing and playing music.
How so?
I was 19 and I took a weekend workshop at Berkeley with Livingston, and it changed my life in that it was like such a profound way of understanding stage performance. And it really resonated with me. So when I went back to school, I think that was like right after my first year of college that I took that course. So I went back to school in Western Mass and I was like, where can I find a class like this? I looked at Hampshire. One of the beautiful things about that school is that they utilize the 5 college consortium. So in addition to taking classes at Hampshire, you can also take them at UMass, Amherst College, Mount Holyoke, and Smith College. So like when I took French, it was at Amherst College. I took a vocal jazz class at Mount Holyoke. So I was seeking everywhere I could for a stage performance class. And I couldn't find anything that aligned with what he was teaching, which makes sense now that I've taken his full class because he's the most unique person you will ever meet. So it's impossible that someone else could be doing what he was doing. But so I ended up emailing him. I asked him, is it possible for me to like take your class? And essentially he was like, yeah, just don't tell Berkeley and come right in. And so that's what I did. I like took a student, what was it called? An independent study, technically, like through Hampshire. That's what it would look like. But I went to his class one day a week. It's like a 3 or 4 hour class. And then it has 2 parts. So I went back to Hampshire for my last semester of senior year, but I drove to Boston every Tuesday night, stayed with a friend to wake up Wednesday morning and take his 9 a.m. class for the second semester which I would never have done that for any other class, but I was so motivated because he was such an amazing teacher and I learned so much.
What were some of the biggest things you learned about stage performance from Livingston Taylor's class? Yeah.
I think one of the most important things is the relationship that you have with the audience is sacred and you need to take it really seriously. And essentially you as a performer are holding the audience in this container of space and you are in control. And if you do things that make it feel like you're not in control, that will affect the audience in ways that they might not even cognizantly understand, but it is a negative effect, right? So like he's very anti-drinking when you're on stage. He's
drinking alcohol.
Yep. Anything that would make you not feel embodied and in control of yourself. I certainly don't follow that in my life, but I do to an extent. Like I wouldn't go overboard. But the other really big thing is it's all really connected to connection. So eye contact. So I have this experience when I play. I very regularly look out into the audience and intentionally lock eyes with people and sing to them, which can be a little awkward for some people. Like they can't fully engage, but most of the time they lean toward me. And then I can sense like there's a connection. I actually had this the other day. I played a show with my band Foxglove at Jimmy's, and my bandmate Jim mentioned that one of the people in the audience is a student of his, and they were talking about music and stage performance apparently in one of their classes. And she came to the next class and was like, I know what you mean. Like Laura was doing this thing and she looked right at me and she smiled. And that was like a really beautiful full circle moment for me, because I got to see it actually land and then come right back to me. It was like, I'm doing this in a way that really is connecting. And I fuck up on stage all the time. I mean, but like last night I was playing solo and I don't know what the hell was going on with my hands, but I just like, my guitar playing was not top notch and it doesn't matter. So I had this experience at Livingston's class when I was 19, where the first assignment is everybody walks on stage when they're like in a row, when they're ready. And you just stand there and you say, hi, my name is Laura Fox and I come from York, Maine. And then you walk off the stage. And I did this. Hi, my name is Laura. I was actually Kittery back then, but so hi, my name is Laura Fox and I come from Kittery, Maine. I had this pause, like I couldn't quite remember. And then I remembered now, like in the moment, I kind of laughed. Like I let it go immediately. It didn't like hold me in this like, oh, fuck me. What did I do? I did it wrong. How stupid of me. I didn't go there. I just was like, oh, and walked off stage. And then he stopped the whole thing and he went on stage and he was like, I want everyone to notice what Laura just did there. And he made a point to mention to everybody how important it is to just let it go. Like you don't have to hold that. You don't have to, everybody's going to make mistakes. And if you just keep riding that wave, it will be better for you for sure. And it will be better for your audience. Imagine watching somebody perform, they make some mistake and they're like making a weird face and they're kind of like, they stop in the middle of the song. That's the last thing anybody does. They just keep going. And most of the time they don't notice. The audience doesn't notice all the things that you notice. Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
Part of being a good performer is when things go wrong and you just adjusting and adapting on the fly.
Yeah, I totally agree. Laughing is always good. If you can get the audience or the students to laugh with you, I think you got them.
Well, this is such a cool class that you took. Very unique. All right. So you leave this school, Hampshire, you take this class, and then what did you do once you left?
Once I graduated, I moved to Cambridge, Mass, and I got a job as a food runner because I didn't have any real credentials.
The happiness degree didn't get you anywhere?
Didn't somehow. Yeah. I was like, I played out in open mics a lot. Like that was sort of the beginning stages of my music world was happening in Boston. But yeah, for money, no, I had to move back into my restaurant world. I had worked in restaurants like during the summers of college. So that was kind of a skill set I already knew. So I worked at a restaurant initially called Town Stove and Spirits, where Hallie Glenn and Jake Smith worked. And Jake Smith is the chef at the Black Birch. And I worked as a food runner, worked my way up to a server, eventually moved on to another amazing restaurant called Eastern Standard in Boston, and was hired there as like a event coordinator, like a dual role between Eastern Standard and Hotel Commonwealth at the time. And it was a very challenging experience in a lot of ways because even though I love food, it wasn't my passion. So eventually that became clear like 2 years later when I left. But at the time, I worked with really wonderful people. My bosses there were incredible. I learned so much about people and how to treat guests, which has absolutely translated to my work now as a marketing strategist and web designer with my own clients. It's really profound the way that they train hospitality. And it's changed everything. I mean, they wanted the James Beard for their hospitality.
Tell me your Fenway Park story.
Oh, geez. Okay. So while I was working at Eastern Standard, I worked in conjunction with the Hotel Commonwealth. So I was an event coordinator at the time. And one night I had I think a 20-person dinner up in the gallery space, which was like a space that held maybe 50 to 100 people. That was like sort of my bread and butter. Like I was in charge of that space. So if there was an event there, like I was always on point. And we had this event for the Fenway Writers Series. This guy, George Mitchovich, was a VIP at Eastern Standard, meaning he came in all the time. And he came in to prepare for this dinner he was having for a bunch of Fenway people. You know, I get there early and I'm kind of just like setting things up before the servers get there. And they're, I don't know, 70-plus-year-old men asking me about myself. So I ended up saying something about how I was a singer. And of course, they're just like, oh, sing us a song. And the servers hadn't arrived yet. And I'm literally able to. So I did. I sang them a song called Oh Boy by Buddy Holly. And they were like, oh, that was so great. Like, we'd love for you to sing for our dinner tonight. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go about my business. I'm thinking they'll probably forget it. So later on, I'm in the kitchen. I'm like doing all these work things. And eventually the entrees are coming up. So I'm dropping an entree in front of George. And he stands up as I'm dropping it. And he's like, this is Laura. We met earlier. She's going to sing you a song. So I was like, okay. And I sang Oh Boy by Buddy Holly. And they were also, you know, clapping, nice, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure they were like, what the fuck's going on? But George is like, this is normal for him. So later on that night, I'm closing everything up and George comes up to me and he's like, we're having an event tomorrow in the hotel, which is attached to the restaurant. And he's like, I want you to come and sing for us there too. So I was like, George, I'm working in the restaurant tomorrow. Like, I can't just go up to the hotel. And he was like, yeah, you can. He was right because he knew my boss quite well. And he asked my boss. And of course my boss was like, yeah, sure. So I took like a half an hour the next day and I brought my guitar and I went up to this space and I walked in the door and it was set for 250 people, a seated dinner. And they were commemorating the sports writer for the Boston Globe, Bob Ryan. So a bunch of sports people in the house, obviously a lot of Fenway people. So I get up there and play this song. Like George introduces me. We met Laura last night. We want her to play this song. And so I again play Oh Boy by Buddy Holly with my guitar. And then he walks up and he's like, and now Laura's going to sing You Are My Sunshine. And I know that song, of course, because everybody knows that song, right? But I didn't know it on guitar, even though it's very easy. And I should have known it, but I didn't. But I just rolled with it and I put my guitar down and I just started singing it a cappella. And it's actually, again, one of the more powerful moments of performance that I've had where like everyone knows that song. So at the end, the last chorus, I sort of like raised my hands and everyone started singing the last chorus with me. And it was like chilling. It was so beautiful for me. I mean, I think for other people. But it was an example of music connecting and the energy of that was just amazing. And so at the end of that, I was kind of walking to the door and this guy rolls up to me and he's like, hey, I'm the music director for Fenway Park. And I heard about you from last night. And he gives me a card and he's like, do you want to sing the national anthem? And I was very scared, but also, I mean, you say yes. So I said yes. And he's like, great, just give me email me. So I think later that week I emailed him and he responded and said, wonderful, just send me a video of you singing the national anthem and we'll get you on the schedule. And I never responded.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I want to say it was like 3 months later. This is in 2013, by the way, when the Red Sox won the World Series. That's this year. So it's like very cool to be in Boston. And he sends me an email out of the blue and just says, we had a cancellation for next week. Do you want to sing? And I read it and immediately I just said, yeah. So I respond, yes. I call my friend Jamie Lynn Hart, who is a Berkeley professor who is a voice teacher at Berkeley. And she came over, helped me figure out like, okay, what key do you sing it in? How do you hit that high note? Like, Jesus, that's not a fun note to sing. And then a week later, I was on the field singing the national anthem.
Wow. Wait, why didn't you send a video?
Because I think I was just afraid.
Really? I feel like you're just such a fuck it, let's do it person.
Not in every way back then. I think it was like, oh, it's real. And then I was like, oh, and then I need to like learn the song.
That could be your big break though.
I know. I don't know. I can't remember what it really was, but I didn't do it. It was the procrastinator in me, I guess.
Okay. But you did end up going through with it via other means. So how did it go?
Oh, it went great. Yeah.
Okay.
There's no coverage of it, so nobody gets to know, but
I'll dig it up.
It was a blast. I mean, I had a couple of my friends from college and my mom got to like stand out on the field. It was wild. I mean, it's about as wild as you can imagine, like standing on the field and like looking at Fenway Park from that angle. But I like to say one and done at Fenway because I never had sang it before and I will absolutely never sing it again.
Coming up, how Laura weaseled her way into an internship at 29 years old, how to drive more traffic to your website, and why she thinks it may be time to quit your job. That's in a moment. But first, ladies, the word on the street is that your hormones really matter. The problem is it's difficult to detect when they're out of whack. It's like you know something is wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it. You just know you don't feel good. And that just may be why you or the woman in your life could be experiencing issues like fertility struggles, mood swings, weight challenges, stress, and more. That's why it's so important to learn more about functional medicine. That's where Dr. Whitney Elsesser comes in. She specializes in hormone health, fertility, and functional medicine. And at Holistic and Hormonal, she offers personalized programs which combine holistic lifestyle interventions with in-depth lab testing to get to the root of the issues, rather than just treat them with a pill and hope they go away. Whitney is passionate about helping women feel more confident and vibrant when it comes to their health. Some of her top virtual programs include the 5 to Thrive 5-month hormone reset program, the Conceive with Clarity program, as well as hormones and heartbeats. If any of these speak to you, or if you'd like to learn more about addressing hormone imbalance, then please visit holisticandhormonal.org, and in the contact box, just write the word hormones, and then Whitney will get in touch with you to set up a free lab test, which can help you figure out what the heck is going on. The website link is also in today's show notes. This podcast is also brought to you by our dear friends at Meconi Financial Management and Advisory. Listen, Art and Jen Meconi are some of my favorite people on the Seacoast, and they're some of the biggest supporters of this show. They run a comprehensive financial planning practice located in Bedford and Portsmouth. Their team of experienced professionals are dedicated to the highest levels of service, and I know firsthand that they treat all of their clients with the individualized and utmost care we all deserve. At Meconi Financial, they hope to empower their clients to achieve their financial goals through personalized financial planning by tailoring to each client's unique needs. They are always available for their clients, even if it's just for a quick 15-minute phone call, so they can help calm you down if you're having money problems, which in this economy might happen every now and then. To get started on your financial planning journey, please visit the Meconi's website, the link to which is in the show notes, and tell them Seacoast Stories sent you. They'll light up when you say that. Thanks to the Meconis, and thanks to Dr. Whitney Elsesser for supporting this podcast. And now, we pick up again with Laura to hear how she left the restaurant world behind so she could instead pursue a career in marketing.
I had a duo at the time, and I had made
a musical duo.
A musical duo, yep, called Fox and Fern. And we had like a little website and a small, an Instagram. And as I was creating these things, I was like, I kind of like doing this. I kind of think it's interesting. And then I learned a little bit more. I took like a very, like a 10-hour online class or something. And then I cold emailed a bunch of marketing agencies in Portsmouth. And one of the responses was my future boss. He called me out of the blue and just was like, tell me about yourself. I essentially just asked anybody willing to like get a cup of coffee with me, tell me what skills I might need to move toward a career with them. So it felt like a very catch-22 space. Like if I didn't already have experience, they weren't going to give me any. So we had a half an hour conversation, and he offered me to be in the running for an internship for $12 an hour, 20 hours a week. And I was 29 at the time. And it was quite humbling. And also immediately I said, yes, I would love to do it. At the time I was working part-time at the Black Birch. So like schedule wise, I could make it work fine. And eventually I got into the running and I got the job as an intern, and it was supposed to last 4 months. And they hired me within 2 months full-time, which was of course my goal. And I took that experience. I worked there for almost 2 years at Rocca Creative in Portsmouth. And I was able to be in that space and ask so many questions. I essentially created like a master's class for myself. Anybody who worked there knows, like, I was asking a lot of questions, and it was actually kind of wonderful because I didn't have imposter syndrome in a certain way because they knew I didn't know anything. I didn't have to be like, oh, I got to pretend I know that thing. Nope. What does that mean? And then, I would ask to be in meetings that had nothing to do with me, nothing to do with the clients that I was involved with. I just wanted to be a fly on the wall. I wanted to soak up all the knowledge that I could and then leave and go off on my own. And that's exactly what I did. That was like my goal from day one. And it was eventually came to fruition, thankfully.
All right. So you are at Rocca learning tools of the trade marketing, and then you decide to go full-time on your own as a freelance website builder. How did you get the courage to fully go into business for yourself?
I do things when I'm not ready a lot, and it's worked out for me. I think that if you wait until you're quote unquote ready for something, you're most likely never going to do it. And luckily I've had a pretty courageous side to me, I think, looking back. And it wasn't like there was a real plan in place. Like I didn't go to business school. I didn't have any real business plan at all. I still don't. But I had started working on the side a few months before I left. I had 2 clients with Seacoast Lately. And
shout out Maggie.
Yeah, Maggie. And I had another client, Lynx Healing Jewelry. I'm wearing her earrings right now, actually.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah. So I sort of like realized that I had some ability to move toward that. So I left Rocca, but I had moved. So I had a breakup, and I ended up packing up yet again, second time in my life I did this, all my stuff, and put things in my mom's basement again, and then filled my car, and I drove down to South Carolina where my sister lives, and just fucked around for a while and worked there remotely for these clients, and started to build an idea for what I wanted to do. And then I also traveled to Asheville and Nashville and just roaming, staying with friends, exploring. And then I made my way back up here. I think it was July, and moved to Elliott for a year, and then eventually back to York, which I've been in York now since then. Yeah.
There's something about the ages of 29, 30, 31, just that whole range. So I'm 29. You took this $12 an hour intern job at age 29 with the hope of, let me be here for a year or two and then I can go do my own thing. A friend of mine who is 29, she just quit her full-time job without any plan. Another friend of mine who's 31, she has a plan, but she just quit her full-time job. This time in your life seems to be a very reflective moment, a turning point in a lot of people's lives and careers. Do you have any thoughts as to why that may be?
Well, astrology might tell us that it has something to do with your Saturn return. but I don't know enough about astrology to be the person to talk about that. But I'm sure that's what my mom would have just said. So I had to say it.
My friend actually said that too.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Must be true.
Whatever that means.
I think it's like that Saturn is so far away and then the cycle and it finally is returned. It takes 30 years, almost 30 years for it to actually come back into the same placement in your chart. Yeah. So it's literal. It's like physical in space change.
Wow. Okay.
But often it, I think, ends up being that you have like some real big life shifts happen when that's happening. So I'm not surprised to hear that theme coming up for you and your friends.
Yeah. For someone who is listening to this and was once in the position that you were in because of where Saturn is in the sky at a given moment and is weighing, do I stay in this job that pays the bills or do I go do my own thing like I've always dreamt of? What would you say to that person who is stuck in the middle and doesn't know what to do?
I would ask them to imagine themselves on their deathbed and consider what it is that they might feel like they regret. And most people on their deathbed do not regret spending more time with their family and friends, exploring adventure or passions that they have. They regret working too much most of the time. And most of those people, I bet the work that they did wasn't fulfilling. So if you're doing work that you really find fulfilling, I don't think that those people would be saying that on their deathbed. I think at the end of the day, I was going to say we have one life, but I actually don't believe that. We have this life right now. Why wouldn't you live it the way you want to live it? It's so simple to me, actually. Granted, like, you might call me irresponsible. That has certainly been true. But I think about it like, what the fuck are you waiting for? Why are you wasting your time doing something you don't enjoy? For money? That's not enough of a reason. For safety, you can find that in other ways. I think at the end of the day, you have to do what feels good in your body, in your gut, in your heart. Like, where and how do you do that? And it is through, I think, joy and connection to other people. How do you do that more? How do you build that up? How do you see the good in your life and help it grow?
That's beautiful. If you were on your deathbed tomorrow, would you regret anything?
Mm-hmm. Man. No, I don't think so. I think I'm doing what I want to be doing and spending my days the way I want to. I mean, I feel like I'm on the precipice of something new. Like, energetically, there's like a shift in my life. I've had this happen now twice in my life where I kind of like left my world behind and went on an adventure. And I think that this is another year for that. I feel like I had this situation with my house where I've lived there for the last 5 years and there's like mold growing and it just feels unsafe to me now, like medically. So my lease is up in June and I'm going to move. And I feel like that move is it's definitely not going to be forever. It will be like a transitional move. And then the next thing will appear. I don't know what it is yet. I think travel is really what I want. I haven't really taken as much advantage of the fact that I can literally work from anywhere. I mean, I like to have in-person client meetings regularly, which I do, but I don't have to. I can do this from other places. And at least for, I don't know, X amount of time, I would like to.
All right. So I want to ask you about your band because that actually may be the thing that ends up keeping you here for the time being. But back to the early days of your business, which would become Maine Fox Marketing. At the beginning, Laura, what services were you providing to your clients?
In the beginning, I was only doing strategy and SEO because that's what I learned at Rocca. I didn't do any design. And so I partnered with Alex at Andercat and Liz Favini, who also used to work at the Black Birch long ago before me.
I got to get to the Black Birch. I still haven't been.
I cannot believe you haven't been to the Black Birch.
I know, I'm sorry. Can you get me in?
I mean, you just go there at like 4:30 and you'll get in fine.
Okay, perfect.
It's the perfect time to eat anyway.
Okay.
Good for your digestion. So what was I talking about?
Early services providing.
Early services. So yeah, I learned strategy and SEO at Rocca. That was like my main focus. I thought for a while I was going to be a project manager, and I found that to be really boring, even though I did have a good skill set for it. But I wanted to work in like the content, the like nitty gritty, talking to the clients, understanding what they needed, what are their goals, how do we work with them to help all of the strategy support those goals online. And then SEO was a big part of that as well. Search engine optimization. How do you get found online for what you want to be found for? So those two things I felt like strong in. Design, nothing. I mean, I had designed like my own little website years prior, but eventually, I don't actually really know how it happened, but I just started to do it. Instead of working with Liz as a designer, I started designing things and I started making changes. And I've always had, an interest in design. And I think I have somewhat of a like specific aesthetic that I create and seek out, and it just started to work. And so then it eventually became that when I bring on a client, I'm doing everything. It's like, I do all the strategy, I do all the SEO, copy editing, design, creation. Sometimes I will reach out to an old coworker of mine to write some code that I don't know how to do if it's beyond what I need. But other than that, that's the only addition to Maine Fox Marketing other than me.
And you've been using like the Squarespaces of the world?
Yeah, I use Squarespace. I don't use any of their templates. I like create everything myself, but I like Squarespace for clients. I work with all small businesses, mostly in the Seacoast, mostly women-owned, mostly in the worlds of food and drink and farms.
And is this by coincidence or by choice?
Interest.
Okay.
It's my interest, yeah. It wasn't like I started and I was like, I'm only going to work with these vectors. It's like, it just turned into, looking back, I can see, here's what I'm doing. So I have food and drink and farms or local agriculture and alternative or holistic wellness, like naturopaths or yoga studios. And then I have art. So like art and music or photography or art associations, that sort of world.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover between our worlds, Laura, because you have partnered with the likes of past guests Seacoast Lately, Soul Models, Vernon Family Farm, The Press Room, and friend of the show, Aaron Holtz, the functional nutritionist.
Yeah.
It's quite the list you've got. That's a Seacoast
that's only a little piece
All-Stars.
of it.
I know.
Yeah.
It's 48 websites, right?
Yeah. I know. It feels like a lot.
And you're a one-woman show.
Yeah.
Why? I'm sure you could use some help.
I could, yeah. Why do I not hire out? I think, for me, at least right now, one of the most important pieces to what I do with my clients is that it's me that they get. It's not like the concept of imposter syndrome, right? Like, I am going to bring to the table what I am going to bring to the table. And I'm the only one who can do that. That's true for every other person. And that's not to say that hiring somebody underneath you is a bad idea. Of course, it's perfect for a lot of people. But I think one of the reasons that people work with me is because they know they're getting me and my advice and my recommendations, and they have access directly to me. It's not like they're working at an agency where they have, one person sometimes and they can't access them, and then they don't know the whole story of their business. I'm able to give people a real, like, full experience of me. And then, I end up making friends with many of my clients, and I wonder what they would say about the experience from this perspective, how they would even feel if I was like, yeah, please email my EA.
Yeah. not that I know too much about this, but I'm sure you can still do all of those things that you just said. You can do the strategy, you can be the resource to them, you can talk about everything with them, but you could have someone else go type in the stuff on the back end.
Yeah, but the way that I like do it is so fluid. I don't know. I don't think I would. It's like, yeah, in theory, I could have somebody else copy edit, but then part of the strategy, and specifically for SEO, is like I'm editing that copy based on the keywords that I have researched, based on the goals that they have. And the way that somebody else would edit that is not the way I would. And it's just none of it is actually black and white. It's all shades of gray, which is literally my theme to life. Nothing is black and white. So I would love for you to be right about this. Like, I think it would be nice to be able to hire somebody one day.
Yeah. I've seen in my professional life, and I've struggled with this as well, getting caught up in thinking that you are the only one that can do it. And that ends up being a detriment, because then you end up taking on too much. You end up getting overwhelmed. And then by trying to do everything, you end up doing nothing. And you're not serving the people and showing up the people as best as you can, because you're being a bit stubborn and saying, oh, I got this. I can do this myself.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very possible. I just haven't met the right person to come in. So if you're out there, and
someone slide in the DMs. Perhaps all my friends who are quitting their jobs at age 30.
Yeah, there you go.
If you need a $12 an hour internship, Laura's got you.
No, I would pay much better than that.
Okay, SEO.
Yeah.
Laura, I have a pretty good understanding of how to do a lot of things in media: writing, editing, podcasting, YouTube, social media. I don't know the first thing about SEO. I've never understood it. I've never grasped it. I've never known any of the tips and tricks, despite looking up all the time how to do it. I just don't get it. Break this down in the most simplest ways. A, like, what is SEO? And B, how do you master it?
SEO is an acronym for search engine optimization. And how do you master it? I mean,
don't reveal.
That's a hard one.
I know you took a master's in this for 2 years.
I did, yeah.
The watered down version.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of think about SEO like, imagine your website is an island. And to be able to allow swimmers and ferries and sailboats and planes to get to that island, to find your website, you need to utilize SEO. SEO is essentially organic search results. So you might be familiar if you Google something in the top of the page, you'll see a few paid ads, right? They look kind of similar sometimes to the rest of what's pulling up on a SERP page, search engine results page. But they're paid for. So that's advertising. I don't do any of that. Don't ask me any of those questions. But below the ads, you'll see organic search results. So those are pages that are being found because they're providing valuable educational information on their website, and people end up clicking on those pages because they've written a helpful and catchy meta description, meta title, and it pulls them into that page. And then the page itself is created in a way that is optimized for whatever terms they're looking to be found for. So I feel like an example might be helpful here. So Erin's website, The Functional Nutritionist, one of the things that we did was create multiple pillar pages. So you can think of a pillar page like a long form page, a lot of copy, a lot of information. And then you have blog posts or product pages or other pages on that site linking back to the pillar page. And that helps Google to see, what are you an authority on the subject of? How do we help people find you for this thing? So with Erin, she has a functional medicine page, and she has a gut health page, and she has a hormones page. And throughout that page, where we've optimized that copy based on keyword research for those terms to utilize those terms throughout. And then in addition to the on-page copy, we're linking back to it from, she has a podcast, right? So the podcast pages that are relevant, that's an important part. You don't want to just do this like randomly. It has to matter and make sense. You link back using a hyperlink of the text that is the term that's helpful to you. That's really important. You don't want to use like click here and then the word here is linked. That's not supporting SEO in any way. Not only that, it looks spammy. So the combination of the long form copy on the pillar page with the links back is what's helping you build rank.
Oh, okay.
And then on top of that, every web page on your website needs to have a meta title, a meta description, and an optimized URL. So you're determining what these words are based on how I'm determining what they are is based on extensive conversations with my clients about what their goals are for the organization or company and the actual nitty gritty content of like, what is this about? Right. So I'm not a nutritionist or functional medicine provider. So I rely on the client to share the knowledge that they have. And then in connection with what they already know and what I know, that's how I'm able to create these sites that build rank.
Keyword research that caught my attention. What is a keyword and how do you know what your keywords are or the ones that would serve you the best?
The way that you can know what would serve you the best is based on the goals you have. So the press room, for example, like they want to be found. If somebody's Googling live music, Portsmouth NH, they want to be found for that term, right? Of course. So some of it's like quite obvious. I have a client that wants to be found for wedding flowers if you're searching for that. So it's going to make sense differently for everybody. And there might be different avenues in depending on what it is. So for example, the Word Barn, we have a page on there that is about visiting the area, which is essentially highlighting other businesses that bring rank to help him get found, right? So one of the goals for the Word Barn is to have more private events. So that is a pillar page on their website. We're linking back from other places. We put in enough information on that page itself to help grow rank, and they're getting way more inquiries for private events now.
Yeah, I saw in Erin Holtz, the functional nutritionist, her testimonial, her website was getting 11 page hits a day or something. Yeah. And then after working with you, it went up to like 1,500, which is crazy, Laura.
Yeah, it really works. I mean, the press room, one of the terms that they wanted to go after was live music Portsmouth NH. And when we started, they were 17th. So that's the bottom of the second page. I think it was 6 months.
They were 17th? Are there even 17 options?
I don't know. But they were at the bottom of the second page. And once we worked together, so one of the big things to realize is SEO is the long game. Paid advertising is short. You pay for something, it is immediately there. That's it. Right. But with SEO, you're working in an organic, more holistic way. And therefore, it takes time. Yeah. Like you have to consider this a project that is essentially never going to end if you really do it right. But at a minimum, 6 months to a year and a half for you to grow rank in the way that you want to, if you're doing it strategically and thoughtfully.
And I imagine that produces better results than the short-term paid ads. Because honestly, I never clicked the ads at the top.
Most people roll right over them.
Yeah, because they just seem like, this just doesn't seem legit. Yeah, spammy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So I heard you say recently that owning your time and living a very meaningful life outside of work is very important to you. What steps do you take to make sure that work does not overtake your life and that you can live your joy list every day?
Honestly, I think I have the opposite challenge these days in that I have a lot of interests and I like to do things that I like to do. And I enjoy my work. I love to be strategic and creative. I love my clients. I've created this thing that I get to do. It's not like I have to do it, I get to do it. And that's beautiful. But my main passion is music. So I have a 5-piece band called Foxglove, and it's with Whitney Roy and Roland Nicole and Jim Dozette and Rick Habib. And when it comes to marketing and my business specifically, I get to work with clients who are doing good work in the world. Like that's how I pick my clients. I'm not just working with anybody who reaches out to me.
Anybody.
No. I mean, I had to work in a way that made sense at different times in my career, right? But like for most of my career, honestly, I've intentionally, that was like a very big part of leaving the agency because I wanted control over who I got to work with. And there's no way for that to be true when you're not the one in sales, right?
Yeah. I wrote in my book that the goal in your career should be to build yourself up to a place where you can start saying no. I think that's the dream.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to do soulless work or work for and with people that you don't want to. When you can get to a spot where you can pick and choose your spots and pick the things that light you up and say no to the things that do the opposite, that's the dream.
Absolutely. And what ends up happening is like if you were to read out my client list and you saw some big banks on there and some like companies that maybe were a little shady, you wouldn't think the same of me in the end. Like I am trying to live my own values through the clients that I pick. So I care a lot about local agriculture and the food that you put into your body and the ways in which you can support your body through movement and herbs and, you know, all of these things that matter to me and have for a very long time. I don't have those businesses. Like I'm not in the business, but because they work with me, I'm able to like help them do more good of what they're already doing. Like I get to build them up, which is incredible. That's
so cool. It's an expression of your values, the people that you work with.
Yeah.
That's so cool that you're doing that, Laura. I want to circle back to where we started this conversation, your love of music. I know you mentioned earlier that you may want to travel soon and hit the road, but you also do have some musical dreams that you're trying to accomplish here, right?
Yes, for sure.
Tell me about some of these things.
We are trying to make a record eventually. I think an EP, maybe a full length. I'm still debating.
What's the definition of an EP? I've always
It's a shorter record. It's like four or five songs. Versus an LP would be a full length record. But yeah, we're playing shows, which is wonderful. We're like exploring music. We're exploring, I'll bring, an original to the table and the band will help to support and shift things and grow it in ways that I certainly can't do on my own, which has been an amazing part of this journey to collaborate with the four of them. And yeah, I feel like I've always wanted to make a record. In some ways, I think I have like a lot of weight on it because I haven't done it already and I've been playing out for, 13 or 14 years. And there's this little part of me that's like, oh, I get to do one and then that's it. Like very scarcity mindset. I'm trying to shift that thought pattern. But money is the problem, really. Like monetary funds to make a record is a real thing. And, a lot of that doesn't really end up getting recouped depending on what your, what level of musicianship you're at. At this stage, it's realistic to not expect I'm going to like get all the money back that I might put into a record. So what's super helpful is other people's support. So my bass player, Roland Nicole, is also is a really beautiful illustrator, and he designed a couple of t-shirts for us and a tote bag. So we're trying to sell those to grow this bank account so that I can actually give some money to a sound engineer and a mixer. And yeah, one day.
And I will put the link in the show notes to this merch page, and I will get some for myself. I can't wait to wear some Foxglove around these parts. Now, is the EP dream, is it just because it's just something I've always wanted to do and I want to get it done? Or is it, this is the first step and then we can do full album and then we can world tour and then like we're world famous? Like what's the motivation?
The motivation is like an innate desire to share my music with other people. And an album allows me to share it with way more people than the people who get to come and see a show. So I'm not really in the world of like the world tour thing is not in my mind, but it's in my mind to be able to have people listen to my songs in their living room or in their car or wherever they are, It's one of the most beautiful experiences that I get to have is when my music is affecting somebody else. if somebody tells me like, oh, I was like, crying listening to your song or something, I'm not trying to make you cry, but also I am trying to make you feel. That is real. I feel these things. They essentially like vomit out of me onto a page. I mean, it doesn't feel sometimes like I'm the one writing it. It's like I can get into a flow state, you just kind of do it. And these songs are like moments in time. I write about love, the lack thereof, and the in-between. And so my songs end up being about relationships. And like I said, joy and connection to others. That's what it's all about. And often it was not joyful, sadly, but it allowed me to feel and grow and change. And hopefully now I'm in, a better place to find the next one.
Well, I think you're in a great place, Laura.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me today. We have one final question, and we ask this same final question at the end of every episode every week. And I'll ask it to you. Laura, knowing what you know now in hindsight about where you are in your life and how things have turned out for you, what advice, what wisdom would you share with your younger 22-year-old self to prepare her for what is about to come?
Wow. I've listened to your podcast before and somehow I didn't think I should prepare this at all. What would I tell my 22-year-old self? Just out of college and absolutely no idea what I was doing. I would remind her to pay attention to the people in her life that she loves and spend more time with them. Call your grandma back more often. I would tell her to practice more yoga, take more walks, definitely play more guitar, and I would remind her that she is capable of what she wants to do and to believe in herself more.
Thank you so much for joining me, Laura.
Thanks, Troy. It's been lovely.
That's Laura Fox, the one-woman show behind Maine Fox Marketing and the leader of Foxglove. To support Laura and her musical dreams, you can get merch by visiting the link in the show notes. And you can also catch Foxglove on May 9th at the Dance Hall in Kittery. To support this show, we'd love to see you on June 19th at the Word Barn for our second live podcast. In the meantime, I hope to see you around town this week, perhaps at the Black Birch, Treeline Outfitters, or hit the decks Thursday night in Portsmouth. If you do so, please stop me and say hi. I would love to hear your story. Until next time, everybody, have a great week. Live free or die.